Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking a bit of a surprising detour, actually, into the world of Arundhati Roy. For decades, we've known her mostly for those fiery political essays and obviously the incredible fiction of the God of Small Things.
Exactly. Roy's always been, well, positioned outwardly, hasn't she, as a critic, a voice for the marginalized, a real global debater.
Right.
Which is why this new work, the sources are detailing, Mother Mary Comes to Me, feels like such a major shift, like almost tectonic.
Okay.
It's slated for 2025, and it's her very first memoir. So she's turning that intense gaze inward.
Inward, that's the key word. So our mission for you today is really to give you the context, the insights into this pivot.
Yeah.
And you need to understand this isn't some sprawling autobiography covering everything. It's laser focused, an intimate deep dive into just one relationship.
The big one.
The big one. The stormy, sometimes tender, definitely unforgettable bond with her mother, Mary Roy.
And that title, Mother Mary Comes to Me, it tells you so much right away. It's from the Beatles, Let It Be.
When I find myself in times of trouble.
Mary Comes to Me, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just comfort, guidance, right, solace. But what the sources reveal is that for Roy, her mother was often the source of the trouble just as much as the solace. Maybe more so sometimes.
Wow.
So this book is like a careful excavation of that very duality, that tension.
Reconciling pain with protection, essentially. So, okay, we're going to unpack why this memoir really matters, how Roy uses language, maybe to heal, and what it tells us about the real cost of being fiercely independent. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah.
So to really grasp the weight of this memoir, you absolutely have to understand the woman at its heart, Mary Roy.
Right.
She wasn't just, a difficult mother or a strong mother in the usual sense. She was a major public figure in India, quite formidable.
Oh, absolutely. The sources paint her consistently as fierce, rebellious, really uncompromising, a presence.
And that's the essential foundation for this whole deep dive, isn't it? Mary Roy wasn't just a mother. She was a prominent educationist, a revolutionary activist. She actually shaped the social landscape in Kerala.
And her public legacy. It wasn't just about founding a school, although that was significant. It was about fundamentally challenging and changing patriarchal law.
Okay, let's get specific on that legal point, because it really defines her public identity, right? The sources highlight that huge 1986 Supreme Court case she won.
That case is, well, it's everything in this context. She took on the Travancore Christian Succession Act head on.
And winning that, what did that mean practically?
It meant that Syrian Christian women in Kerala, who traditionally have been denied equal property rights, well, they finally got equal inheritance rights.
Yeah.
Same as the men.
Wow. So this wasn't just some minor tweak to the law.
Not at all. It was a direct hit. It dismantled centuries of patriarchal tradition in that community. A huge victory.
So, okay, you have this national icon of rebellion, a woman who literally changed the law to empower other women. That's the public Mary Roy. But then the memoir, it pulls back the curtain on the private Mary Roy, the mother. And that relationship, it was intensely complex.
That's the core contradiction, isn't it? How do you square that? A mother strong enough to battle the Supreme Court, yet her presence at home could be, well, overwhelming. Or maybe sometimes absent emotionally.
Yeah.
Roy uses this really potent phrase. She calls her mother, quote, my shelter and my storm.
Shelter and storm, that says it all.
It does. And the sources really emphasize that the book confronts this truth with brutal honesty, no sugarcoating.
And that honesty sounds crucial because this isn't just a glowing tribute.
Far from it.
Roy talks about moments of deep love, sure, but they're constantly set against these feelings of fear, misunderstanding, even profound loneliness in her childhood.
Yeah, the book refuses to romanticize Mary Roy. It insists on showing the full, complex, difficult woman, warts and all, you could say.
Yeah.
And if we connect that personal complexity to the bigger picture, well, we land squarely on the book's core themes. Let's start with motherhood and rebellion. Mary Roy's entire life reads like a blueprint for defiance, doesn't it? Leaving an unhappy marriage, raising kids alone while building a school, taking on the legal system.
It sounds like the perfect kind of inheritance for someone like Arundhati Roy, who became this powerful activist herself.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
But hang on. If Mary Roy was such a radical fighter for independence and women's rights, shouldn't that have, perfectly equipped her to raise an emotionally secure, independent daughter?
That's the paradox.
Why did that very independence seem to lead to emotional distance? It feels like a huge contradiction the book has to wrestle with.
And that is precisely the intellectual and emotional tension driving the whole narrative. The sources suggest, the memoir argues, that the very price of Mary's public radical independence was often, well, closeness at home. Her
Oh.
rebellion, while vital for her own freedom, maybe created these emotional gaps, sometimes real anger. And that fostered a daughter who felt, immense pride, but also deep resentment, a real push and pull.
That tension flows right into the next big theme, doesn't it? Identity and inheritance.
Absolutely. Roy is constantly asking, implicitly and explicitly, what part of me is my mother?
Right.
She clearly sees Mary's courage in herself, that stubbornness, that absolute non-negotiable need for justice. You see it mirrored in her own activism, her writing voice.
But it's not just a simple, I got this from her list, is it?
No, no, the nuance is critical. It's not just about inheriting the strengths. Roy seems to be grappling with the weight of that inheritance.
The weight.
Meaning,
Oh,
how do you forge your own distinct self when you grow up under such a, well, the sources call it a towering presence,
I see. It could make you feel small.
or compelled to rebel even harder,
Yeah.
or just lost? The sources show her struggle was trying to escape that powerful shadow, but maybe also realizing eventually that the shadow itself is part of what gave her strength to stand tall.
A kind of generational cycle. Descent and duty all wrapped up together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she realizes she inherited not just the ability to fight, but maybe the inescapable need to fight. Even if it came with this emotional cost, she's only fully processing now through the writing.
Okay, let's shift to how the book actually works as a piece of writing. The structure itself sounds like it's doing the heavy lifting of healing.
It really does.
It's deliberately not linear, right? Not A leads to B leads to C. The sources describe it more like a river of memories.
Yeah, flowing freely, sometimes jumping mid-sentence between, say, a fragment of a difficult childhood memory and then a reflection from her adult perspective looking back.
That non-linearity, it sounds key to this idea of memory and healing.
It is. It feels like she's using the act of writing almost like, well, like a form of self-analysis.
Yeah.
Sorting through these shards of the past that still hurt, a sharp word, a moment of fear, even a grand public act of her mother's defiance, and bringing her adult understanding to the child's pain.
So she's both the vulnerable kid feeling it and the analytical adult making sense of it at the same time.
Precisely. It's transforming that personal history into a tool for release. Writing becomes this very specific way to forgive.
But not forgive as in forget it happened.
No, not at all. More like forgive through understanding. Achieving this deep contextual grasp of why the pain was there, maybe why her mother acted as she did. The pen is almost like a surgeon's scalpel here, carefully dissecting the past to enable healing.
And even with this intensely personal inward focus, knowing Roy, she can't entirely separate her story from the wider world, can she?
No way. True to form, right? This is where the narrative broadens into what you might call political intimacy.
Political intimacy, I like that.
Even when she's recounting the most private family moments, the structure, the subtext, is always aware of the external forces, how class, caste, religion, those rigid gender expectations, how they shaped Mary Roy's world, and therefore inevitably shaped Arundhati's too.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for me, because the family story becomes this powerful social reflection, but without sounding like a lecture.
Exactly. It feels organic.
The narrative becomes this profound meditation on India's shifting social landscape, but seen through the very intimate lens of this one extraordinary, rebellious, often quite broken family.
Yeah, the home wasn't just a home. It was like a microcosm of the larger political battles Mary was fighting outside its walls.
Let's talk about the style for a minute.
Yeah.
Because this is where that vulnerability must really come through. Roy's writing is, it's legendary, poetic, lyrical, vivid.
Always.
But compared to her other work, what makes the tone here feel different, unique?
The tonal shift is quite stark, actually. You think of those fiery political essays, their public arguments, demands for change, right?
Oh,
Very assertive.
definitely.
Here, the tone is far more introspective. It's intimate. Often it's described as fragile.
Fragile, from Arundhati Roy.
Yeah, the sources suggest it's almost like a daughter finally whispering the truths she couldn't or wouldn't speak while her mother was still alive.
Oh.
It allows for a kind of tenderness, maybe, that her public warrior persona rarely shows.
It feels like maybe the ultimate act of vulnerability for a writer who's built a career using language as a weapon, or at least a very sharp tool for social critique.
I think that's right. And that leads us straight to the ultimate takeaway. This book isn't meant as a simple tribute. It's not just my amazing mother.
Oh.
It reads much more like a necessary, probably painful confrontation. A final reckoning, maybe, between profound love and deep generational hurt.
So it forces readers to accept that healing isn't about forgetting the hard stuff.
Exactly. It's about understanding the complex, contradictory, full truth of the people who shape us most profoundly, for better and for worse.
And the sources mention that Roy herself sees this book almost as inevitable, like she had to write it.
Yeah, she essentially says, paraphrasing the essence, I have been writing this book all my life, suggesting that every story she's told, every political stand she's taken, somehow it all traces back to Mary Roy's influence, whether she was reacting against it or embodying it, that shadow or that light. So for you, the listener, what's the core message to take away here?
I think it's deeply about the power, but also the real pain involved in love, especially maybe mother-daughter love, and how telling the truth, your truth in this case, through the focused discipline of writing can become this ultimate form of emotional release, catharsis maybe.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the immense cost of freedom, doesn't it? It shows that generational struggle, particularly for women, carving out space for themselves in a world that often prefers them quiet.
So what does it all mean in the end? It feels like the book works on multiple levels. It's like a letter to her late mother, a confession maybe, and also a mirror held up to herself and potentially to us.
Yeah.
It suggests that maybe the most revolutionary thing we can do is achieve that really profound, complicated understanding of our parents. Their strengths, sure, but also their flaws and the specific ways they marked us. It's about facing the chaos of your own origin story, perhaps, and realizing that maybe that very chaos is what forged your resilience, your strength.
Absolutely. So if Mary Roy was both the shelter and the storm for Arundhati, we want to leave you with this to think about. In your own life, how do you tell the difference between the parts of your legacy, your inheritance that protect you, and the parts that perpetually challenge you?
That's a deep one.
And maybe more critically, over the long haul of your life, which of those legacies, the sheltering one or the stormy one, actually proves more valuable for your own growth, for shaping who you become? Something to mull over.
Definitely food for thought.
Thank you for diving deep with us today.